All right, sports fans, this is Coach Lowe coming to you again with 6.4 sample surveys. And just looking at the opening screen here, I am inspired. So here we go. Let's look into samples. There are three types of studies, which we have talked about experiment experiments a little bit. And the big thing about experiments to rehash that one is, hang on, let me change the color on here. Big thing about experiments is there will always be a treatment, okay? There will always be a treatment being imposed. So you will have explanatory variables, you will see response variables, but definitely something is happening, you are testing something, a treatment is being imposed, that's going to be experiment. Observational studies, basically where you are going to take in, basically observable data. Okay, you are not going to interfere or influence. So, like what they're saying right here, without influence or interfering, you are going to just take it all in. You're going to be just pulling in all the data you can, and you're going to be, of course, making judgments based off that. Today, we are going to be right down here. All right, another way to get data is to run a sample survey, which is going to be a process of selecting a sample from a population. So this is the whole process. We want to get a representative sample from a much bigger population. And the reason is because uh, if you want to get data, it will likely be definitely more difficult to get all your data from each person. Let's say I want to do a survey for Forsyth County. Am I going to be able to track down all the people in Forsyth County for a survey? And that's probably not. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to narrow that down and I'm going to try to select a sample that represents. That's going to be the key question for now and of course later. You want always your sample to represent. That is crucial. Okay. So there are different ways of getting that sample, which is what we're doing today. So changing the screen. All right, just know that a population is going to be the entire group of individuals that we want to know information about. And sample is going to be, of course, a subset. We want to make that as fair as possible. It must represent the population. And just throwing this out there, we did this not too long ago. There is a thing called a census, and what that does is that's going to collect data from every individual. I remember getting all the phone calls. But a nice visual right here, population, of course, is going to be much bigger. And how you pull out your sample, of course, means everything as far as the validity of what you're trying to show. Next screen. So identifying a population of sample, example one. High school students newspaper plans to survey local businesses about the importance of students, okay, as customers. Okay, so you're going to survey all the local businesses about the importance of students as customers from an alphabetical list of all your local businesses. Newspaper chooses 150 businesses at random. Ooh, they're throwing a lot of good buzzwords. Of these, this is interesting, of these 73 return the questionnaire. So you're going to get your data from 73 that participate basically. But here, all they want to know is the population. So I would be going with all your local businesses. Okay, all your local businesses. Your sample here would be your 73 that participated. Okay, you didn't get all of them, but you got 73 to return. All right, example number two, archaeological dig turns up large numbers of pottery shards, broken stone tools, other artifacts. Students working on the project classify each article and assign it a number. The counts in different categories are important for understanding a site. So the project director chooses 2% well, 2% of the artifacts at random from each category, I'm assuming, and then checks students' work. 2% of the artifacts at random and checks the students' work. So here the population is going to be all artifacts of the dig, or are all artifacts collected. I'll just leave it like that. And the sample here is going to be the 2% to be checked. Okay? All right, so that's population versus the sample. Here we go. Types of samples. So when you're going to be looking for your representative sample of the population, the first one we normally learn about is the simple random sample, but it is effective. Note, this is the least, or this sample has the least bias, okay? Remember that. Simple random sample gives every possible sample of a given size the same exact chance. So think about this. If I do a simple random survey, that means each person has the exact same chance of being selected to be in the survey. Let's see here. Label members of a population, use slips of paper, random integer generators, or using technology. But basically, it'd be like me giving the whole population of a school a number, and I'm just going to randomly generate, randomly select from that population. So simple random sample. Moving on. Okay. All right. Number 2 on the list is going to be stratified. All right, stratified sampling. So a population will get divided into groups with similar characteristics, and a sample is randomly chosen from. So you're going to basically divide and conquer. You're going to split a population into groups, and then you're going to randomly choose from each group. Okay, so example down here is divide the senior class into groups based on what month they're born in. So I got all my January, February, of course, March babies, all that kind of, going down the line. Then you're going to randomly select one person from each group to interview. That'd be a good example of stratified. Okay, all right, coming up next. So we've done simple random, we've done stratified. Here we go, cluster. Cluster is somewhat similar to stratified. I know students will confuse these sometimes. But here we go. You're going to divide a population again into convenient groups, aka clusters. And then what you're going to do is you're going to choose one of those clusters to work with. Okay? So think about that. It's almost like putting all your eggs into one basket. I'm going to split my population in different groups, and then boom, I'm going to go for one of those groups. Okay? Or maybe a couple of those groups. But basically, I'm just getting all my data from just a couple or one of those groups. Okay, good example down here is the school is divided by content area. So you got your math, science, etc. Randomly select on a classroom per hallway and interview each person in that room. Let me just say that a little bit better. So that would be like me dividing a school by content area. So I got math, I got my science people, okay, and let's say I got my PE people, blah, 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 all right, da, da, da. But it would be like me just choosing, random selecting just one of these groups. So from the math people, I'm going to get, it's supposed to be a question mark, I'm going to get all my data from one of those groups. That would be like cluster. Okay, so I'm going to divide my population into clusters, and I'm just going to go after one of them for all my data. All right. Next example, systematic. Systematic is when you're going to use a rule of some sort. Like you're going to go after every fifth kid that walks through the door of the school that day. Okay, that's systematic. Okay, short and sweet. Next one is convenience. So this is your lazy man survey. It'd be like me wanting to survey the school and go right outside my hall and just survey anybody who walks by. So it's choosing subjects that are in close proximity or easy to get to. Like I said, this is your lazy man survey. Okay. Another good example down here is interviewing all the students during your own lunch. So you're not going above and beyond to get a representative sample. You're just going with students that are close to you in proximity for your data. All right. Types of samples. Here we go. Next one. Self-selected, which actually showed up earlier when we were talking about those local businesses. Self-selected sampling happens a lot using a sample made up of basically volunteers. Well, so the people choose whether they're going to be in the sample or not. Okay, so example, asking people to vote for their senior class representative. Okay, if you do that, only the people that really care are going to go in and vote for that. So that is self-selecting. You are self-selecting your way into that survey. It'd be like walking into a store and seeing some survey sitting on the table as you're walking in. You have the choice whether you participate or not, whether you pick it up or not. That is self-selected. Okay, got a couple of examples down here at the end. Here we go, and we'll be done. Example one, a sample of 2,000 fifth graders, 2,000 fifth graders in the city's public schools. So I got a school district, it's got 2,000 fifth graders. Was sought to estimate average achievement. 3 of the city's elementary schools were randomly selected. And within each of these schools, all the fifth graders were tested. So so think about this. Let's say I got school, 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 school. Not sure how many schools I got. I know I have 2,000 kids, but so I got several schools. But what you're going to do is you're going to pull 3 of those. You're going to randomly select 3 of those, and you're going to use this as your sample. So I'm taking all the fifth graders, all those fifth graders, all those fifth graders, and that's it. So y'all, this is definitely a good example of a cluster survey. Example number 2, there are 100 third graders in a local school district from which a researcher will select a sample of 25 children. Each child's name is put on a list. Each child is assigned a number from 1 to 100. And then each number 1 to 100 are written on a separate piece of paper and shuffled. Finally, the researcher picks 25 of those, and the numbers on the paper to determine 25. So definitely simple, random survey. Each one of those 100 third graders had the same chance to be selected. So simple, random. Example number 3, instructors teaching research methods are interested in knowing what study techniques their students are utilizing. Very interesting. So rather than assessing all their students, the researchers randomly select 10 students from each of their sections. So a little bit different than what we had up above. So let's just say we have a bunch of these sections of students. So if I just pull 10 from here, 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 10 from here. So I'm going to randomly select 10 people from each one of these sections. That is a good example of stratified. All right. So those are your 3 examples. I hope that helps. This is sampling. Good luck.